This is Green Bean for episode 6 of GreenBean's Jets Pod. And I could not be more excited today. I'm having such a great day. I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a great day, partially because I got to interview a very, very special guest for this show. And we're going to do that a little bit later as we move on. We have some very, very important things to discuss today. Very important as far as Jets fans are concerned. But the truth is, I had a great conversation, a great interview with a guest. We will call him Joe the Comic. His name is Joe Conte. He's the host of a few podcasts himself. He's a longtime stand-up comedian in the New York, New Jersey area. I spent some time in Los Angeles with him years ago. And New York, and we traveled as comics and everything together back in the day. And he's a long-standing, diehard Jets fan, and it was really great to interview him. And we'll, like I said, get to that in just a few minutes. Before we move on to the podcast, let me do a little bit of house cleaning, huh? If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the videos, give me a comment. I really do enjoy talking to you guys. So the YouTube channel is called Green Bean Jets Fan, 2 words. If you're listening to this on one of the podcast platforms, which we are on pretty much every podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, and all the others, we're available there. If you're doing that, please take a moment, give me a rating, a good rating, no less. And write a little review if you can. It really helps us out a lot, man. Like, you know, us content creators, this stuff, it's amazing how when you dig into this world, how affected what we can do is either limited or allowed to do things by what you guys respond. Like, you know, so if you write reviews, comments, all that, there's the algorithms and all the other kind of stuff. But if you could take a moment, like and subscribe. Also, I produce content for Jetnation, Jetnation.com, the #1 largest fan forum in the entire NFL. So it's not just Jets in New York and all that. There's nobody like us in the entire league. So if you have a yearning to talk Jets football, by all means, head on over to Jetnation.com and the Jetnation YouTube page where On the Road with Green Bean is, and the Jetnation podcast with Glenn, Dylan, and Alex. You can find that there as well. By all means, lean into that one with a big old press on the subscribe button there too. It helps us out immensely. So with that all aside, let us dig into this incredible day worth of Jets news. So one of the big stories right now is obviously Deshaun Watson. Now we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson, and the news this week as it pertains to the Deshaun Watson situation is that it came out that the New York Jets are his #1 landing spot. Now it's an unconfirmed report and whatever, lots of that stuff going on. As a matter of fact, another report came out and said, I just talked to somebody and they said it was not his favorite landing spot. These guys are trying to get clicks. It's working, so that you got to take it all with a grain of salt. But the source that gave us the idea that Deshaun Watson's preferred landing spot is the New York Jets happens to be based in legitimacy, okay? So let's just explore this for a second. So not even months ago, we were literally, rooting for a tank. And we couldn't even do that right. Remember the guy Shap came out and said the Jets don't deserve to be able to pick a player such as Trevor Lawrence? Remember that? So we don't deserve it. So this is where we were just a few short months ago. Now we're talking about one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the NFL saying that his preferred landing spot would be with the New York Jets, who are led by one of his favorite coaches, Robert Saleh. So that's where this has evolved into. It's pretty interesting. So now with that, so his #2 is the Miami Dolphins. So it can't just be like a normal thing with us. It always has to have some layer of drama and an intrigue and suspense and stress, right? So if we don't get him, then the Miami Dolphins do get him. We can't have that. So it accelerates the need to want to get him, right? You start getting this stressful mindset associated with it. But I want to talk about this competition between the Jets and the Dolphins for Deshaun Watson. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Most of you already know this, but we're going to try to put it together so we can fashion ourselves a little bit of a story, so we can attach emotions to this version of the story. So last year, at the beginning of the 2019 season, the Deshaun Watson-led Houston Texans were one of the stronger teams in the NFL. They were in battles with the Colts, and it was Deshaun Watson versus Mahomes and all this kind of stuff, really developing into one of the stronger teams in the league. And how quickly things change, because just a year later, we're talking about, Bill O'Brien was fired. They traded D-Hop for chump change, and now we're talking about their franchise quarterback not being a part of their team. But let's look at how they got there. So one of the bigger trades last offseason, before the 2019 season, was the Larry Tunsil trade between the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. Now let's take a look at that for just a split second here. The way that it went down was that the Dolphins had this left tackle, Larry Tunsil, really a very, very good player. I believe he is a Pro Bowl player this year for the Texans. So that's, so he's clearly a great player. I mean, he might even be all-pro for all we know. But so here's how the trade broke down. The Miami Dolphins acquired a 2020 first-round pick, a 2021 first-round pick, a 2021 second-round pick, cornerback Johnson Bademosi, and tackle Julian Davenport from the Texans, in exchange for tackle Larry Tunsil, wide receiver Kenny Stills, a 2020 fourth-round pick, and a 2021 sixth-round pick. So all they have out of that still is Kenny Stills is not going to be there either. But so they still have their sixth-round pick, but the Dolphins still have the first, which is the third overall, and their second, which is 35th overall. You see what I'm saying here? So the Texans, even though Larry Tunsil is a Pro Bowl tackle, which is very, very important, they lost that trade, okay? And I'll tell you why. 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. Kenny Stills was basically, it was just, he's okay, he's fine. But that was kind of just an also-ran. And they also received, the Dolphins, a tackle, okay? Julian Davenport. So this year, that draft pick ends up being the third overall pick, which is incredibly valuable. If you remember, just a few years ago in the Sam Darnold trade, we gave up 3 second-round picks to move up from 6 to 3. So 3 spots was worth 3 second-round picks. That's the value of the third overall pick. So they're talking about the Dolphins being the Jets' number 1 competition. First of all, from 2 to 3, so if we're talking about those 2 picks exclusively, the value differential between pick 2 and 3 is 400 points on the draft value chart. Okay, now just to give you some perspective, those points alone are worth an additional second-round pick, number 50. Okay, the 50th overall pick is worth 400 points. So just 2 to 3 alone, they're losing a second-round pick. So they already have to up it a second-round pick just to get to the value of the number 2 pick. So that's right there out of the gate. We have a leg up on them in the trade. Now, as far as different picks and all that remains to be seen. I'm sure whatever it is will be comparable to another first and a second, whatever it is. But then you look at the other nugget, which is Sam Darnold versus Tua Tagovailoa. Now, that all depends on the way that you view either quarterback, right? Now, Tua, as we know, had that really, really severe injury in college, but it looks like he came back and was able to at least be healthy. So the injury, while in there, you have to factor it in. It doesn't look like it's going to be prohibiting him from being a starting quarterback in the NFL, but it's still in the equation. But so it all depends on who you like better, Sam Darnold and Tua Tagovailoa, because more than likely they're going to be included in the trade, more than likely. But here's the thing. the Texans just interviewed an interesting person for their head coaching job, their head coaching vacancy, let's call it. Everybody likes to call it a vacancy. So I will too, right? Why not? So the Texans have a head coaching vacancy, and they interviewed out of left field Josh McCown, who's never been a coach. Not only has he never been a head coach, not only has he not been a coordinator, he's never been a positional coach, he's never coached in his career. Now, he's played for every damn team in the NFL, so that's one thing. But he's never been a coach. So why are you interviewing him as your head coaching kid? Not quarterback coach, not even offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach, passing game coordinator, and none of it. He's being interviewed for the head coaching job. Why? Well, the likely truth is that they want him to give them intel on the version of Sam Darnold that precedes Adam Gase. Who is this guy? Who is this kid? They want to know. They want to pick his brain in a closed room setting, captive audience, so to speak. Who is Sam Darnold? That's what they're going to get on. That's what they're doing with him. Okay, the fact that they're interviewing Josh McCown to get intel, most likely on Sam Darnold, shows you who they're considering. All right, they're already considering this trade. All right, they're already looking at it. The number 2 pick is worth a mid-second round pick in value over what the Dolphins have to trade. Now we're talking about Sam Darnold versus Tua. I'm telling you right now, a lot of people would prefer Sam Darnold over Tua Tagovailoa. They're the same age too. I mean, Sam Darnold has another 2 years of experience in the league, but they're essentially the same age. I don't have that number, but they're right in the same pocket. Maybe a year difference or something like that. So you have all that. Now we're talking about competition. So number 1, we have more value than them. Number 2, we have a quarterback that they're looking like they're more interested in than Tua. Number 3, can you imagine the optics? Can you imagine the optics of this Larry Tunsil trade putting them in a hole where they haven't had a first-round pick in 2 years? They don't have a first or second this year because of that trade. And then, on top of it, you're going to trade your franchise quarterback to receive your own pick back? Could you imagine? Who in their right mind is going to sign up for that? Even if it makes sense for your team, the optics, you're never going to let it go. You're going to be answering questions about this one in 10 years from now. It's going to go down as the stupidest, most asinine string of events that a team has ever done. Outside of the Vikings with the Herschel Walker trade. We're still talking about that. Not every day or anything, but believe me, I just read an article yesterday, and they brought up the Herschel Walker trade. That's the kind of thing. You're trying to rebrand your organization, and you want to start? You want to start with sending away your franchise quarterback to the team who put you in the hole, draft pick-wise, to get your own pick back? Are you high? Are you high, especially when it's not even as valuable as the pick that the Jets are offering? I don't know who makes this stuff up. I really don't. I think that everybody is plumb crazy. That's what I think. Now, this guy Easterby clearly isn't the smartest man in the world. He might think he is. But he sounds, I'm not going to pretend to know the guy, but from my vantage point, he looks like an egocentric asshole who doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just going to ruin the team because he thinks he knows better than everybody and he doesn't know anything. And why the ownership of the Houston Texans has overridden all the football guys to go with this Easterby cat. He must have made him money somewhere. It's just that simple. These guys don't understand anything. They're morons. Do you realize the team that the Texans had? Do you realize it? They had D-Hop, top 3 receiver in the league. In my opinion, honest to God, up until he's my favorite receiver in the league. I hate his face. You know that. But as far as quality's concerned, he's the number 1 receiver in the league, in my opinion, my assessment. I think he's the best. You got Adams, and you got Thomas, and those other great guys. And you can say about it what you will. I don't want to argue about it, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, he's a top 3 receiver at minimum. In my opinion, the best. You had a franchise quarterback potentially developing and building into a Hall of Fame career with the best receiver in the league. And you blow it up for what? A second-round pick and an old running back who's injured all the time? For what? You were perennial the last few years, division champs. So what the hell are they doing? Bill O'Brien gets a lot of flack for that D-Hop trade, but the word on the street is it wasn't even his idea. It was a collaboration. We're not going to remove fault. But he didn't just do that. Grab the phone while they were pulling out his pants and his belt loops. No, I'll trade it. That's not the way it went. They agreed to do this. For what? For what? You blew up one of the best teams in the league for no reason. Why? There has to be some sort of financial thing involved. Has to be. Because now the Houston Texans stand $18.28 million over the cap. You have no first or second round pick. Yay, you got a 6th. You got an extra 6. That's cool. What the hell are we talking about? So you got a new organization that's not smart in the first place. They're doing stupid things. But you can clearly see the ego-based decision-making going on in Houston right now. Clearly. They're not going to be told what to do. You know what I mean? Who's a player going to tell us who to hire as GM? Screw it. That's the stuff that's happening. They told them they would and they didn't. Why? Why? Ego. This is the way ego goes. So do you think when you have an ego-based decision-making mechanism, you think that ego is going to let you go back to the well that poisoned you? To get back what was yours before it? And you're going to give away your franchise quarterback to get back what was already yours? Holy shit. Holy macaroni. Holy baloney. Holy salami. Holy macaroni. I can't even get it through my head. So you're going to let's do this. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to trade with the Miami Dolphins. Again, Larry Tunsil trade galore. All over you. You're wearing it. Shreds Tunsil trade all over you. Yes, Larry Tunsil's great. It's not in question. You don't trade 2 firsts and a second for a damn left tackle. You don't do it. Trade a first and some change? Yeah, every day. 2 firsts and a second? Then you trade away your receiver, ensuring that your pick sucks, that you're toward the top of the draft, and you gave it away? You gave away the 3rd overall pick, which is worth 2,200 draft points? So you're going to do that. You're going to do an override that the Jets are saying, we'll give you Sam Darnold. We'll give you the number 2 overall pick. We'll give you a 2nd-round pick, and we'll give you another 1st or whatever. And we'll give you Henry Anderson. Everybody loves him. I don't give a shit if it's less than Miami's offering, which it will be because Joe Douglas is smart. You don't go back to Miami Dolphins. How could you? Do you hear me? I know it's scary. I'm with you. I'm scared. I'm scared of Miami getting them too. And my guest today, Joe Conte, is going to really highlight why it's even more important for Miami not to get this guy and for the Jets to get him. Now, look, it's one thing. If the Texans don't trade him, it's fine. Deshaun Watson was never ours in the first place. He could have been in 2017. He was sitting there when we drafted Jamal Shithead Adams. So this is why the guest that I have today, and it'll be a nice segue. We'll get right into this next segment with my guest for the day. He highlights just how important it is that, number one, Miami doesn't get Deshaun Watson, and number 2, how important it really is for us to make sure we exhaust every effort to get him. Okay, he does a great job of highlighting the last 37 years of Jets fandom, and we're going to get right into that now. And you can hear what I'm saying. Please welcome Mr. Joe Conte, Joe the Comic from the Conte and Kenny Show and the Honeymooners podcast. Here's Joe Conte. Well, hello, everybody. This is Green Bean. I am incredibly excited right now. I have an old friend of mine who we will affectionately label Joe the Comic. His name is Joe Conte. Joe and I have a long history. We used to tour as comedians together. We spent some time in Los Angeles and New York and all over the place. We made an adult film together, did we not, Joe Conte? People think I am lying when I say that, but it was real. I still can't believe it was real, but we did that. We made an adult film. We were the bosses. And so I'm excited. Joe Conte, who I don't talk to enough, quite frankly, a long, diehard Jets fan, is here with us. So thank you for joining me, Joe. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I miss doing pornos with you. I mean, adult films with you.
Yeah, adult films.
It's been a long time since we were hanging out on the looking at the Los Angeles from up in the valley and hanging out with porn stars, male and female, and all very nice to us. You know, it was very
nice.
Cool. Yes,
so there's a funny story. Before we get into the Jets, there's a funny story where I actually didn't go with you this night because I took my job so seriously at the time. I had to do a lot of crystal methamphetamine in an apartment. But you went out. You chose to go out, and you went to a karaoke for porn stars. Did you not? What did they call that again?
They called the name Pornioke.
I forgot. Pornioke.
It was a Tuesday night, and it was a bar that normally does karaoke. But on that Tuesday night, they charge people $25 to get in because they just wanted the porn girls and guys to go there and not get harassed. So if you were a girl, you were able to go into the bar for free. But if you were a guy, you had to pay $25. And there wasn't a lot of people there. People weren't paying $25 in 2004 to go to a bar. And the girls got to go up and do karaoke, and we got to hang out. I was like, I was like one of those guys. Like, hey, I'm with the broads. I'm with the,
Right, Joe. I think the important question there is when you went, did you have to pay the $25, or were you like on the list because we were big porn guys at the time?
We were part of the porn crew, and we got to hang out. It was great.
So you were so deep into the adult film world at that point that you didn't even have to pay the VIG, the $25 door charge at Pornioke. That's the level where we were at that time. We were real. We were legit, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if the word deep ever goes with me and sex and porn, but yeah, we're definitely shallow into it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right. We got very shallow into that. So anyway, not to go too, we have stories for days on that one. But so Joe and I have a lot of history. So you've been a Jets fan a long time. You're clearly not a young man. So you're not some fresh out of the box purring little kitten that thinks it's going to be an exciting foray into the NFL to be a Jets fan. You're tried and true. You're weather beaten. You've been through a lot with us. So this Deshaun Watson excitement, this Robert Saleh excitement. Are you getting sucked into this? Are you equally excited about all these possibilities, or are you just kind of tempered because you've been a longtime Jets fan? How does it look to someone like yourself?
I'm like the guy right in the middle. I'm never too negative and I'm never too positive. So the last 2 years have been so brutal to us that it's like anything. It's like if you haven't gone on a date in 2 years and a 3 gives you her number, you're like, yes, I'm calling this girl. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm excited. It's the first time I've really been excited about a hire probably since Rex? And it was more of like a weirdness because Rex was so different. But yeah, I'm excited. And maybe because we've been beaten down for the last couple of years, because I've never been apathetic towards the Jets. This last year, I was apathetic. I almost didn't care. And to me, that's worse than being negative, because at least when you're negative, you care. And I just got to the point where I just felt like, dude, this isn't even fun to watch.
Right.
Even when they're bad, they were so fun to watch.
Right. Like even and this is the interesting thing, like when people are like kind of trying to figure out, was this experience worse than the Rich Kotite years? The truth is that it was worse, because in the Rich Kotite years, they were still exciting. There was quite a few very close games. It was like nail biters and they would lose in the last minute, or, but there were, at least half the games of this year, we did not even have a chance. It was like we came out from the opening snap and it was a dud. Like we had no business being in there. It seemed like the games were 6 hours long, right? It was just terrible. So that's really well said.
Yeah, and I think the difference is that this was like the first time where it wasn't just rooting for the number one pick. Because most of the time, the difference between the number one, number two, and number three, you're in the top three, you're getting somebody good. But this was the first time where we were told, you have a can't miss. You have a piece of gold, and it's going to be worth a lot. You got the guy you've been waiting for 50 years. And then it got taken away.
The guy. This is the golden boy. And then it got taken away because we beat a playoff team out of nowhere. What was that? Two playoff teams. What? So this was a year that it really did take the wind out of our sails as a fan base. Like the fact that we're still this passionate is really a testament. The Jets fans, it's almost as if we've been lit on fire because of this pain. Like you said, the opportunity to get Trevor Lawrence was like, we sucked, but we were almost more passionate to try and suck. We're really an amazing fan base because we've been beaten, abused, just lied to, disappointed over and over and over. And just like you said, even with all we have to do is lose and we get the golden nugget, and we couldn't even do that. We couldn't even do that. We lost it. It was stolen from us, So with this Deshaun, so we hired Robert Saleh. People are saying he's a great coach. There are these rumors about Deshaun Watson, a legitimate franchise quarterback, that his favorite landing spot to be traded to would actually be none other than the Robert Saleh-led New York Jets. So is this exciting you, or does your history, like, give me your idea, like how it looks, your overview right now from a long-time Jets fan who's been through everything for the last 40 years?
It's like, I want to believe in ghosts because I think it would be cool to know that there's something on the other side. But I'm skeptical. But I'm not skeptical in a negative way. I'm skeptical, like, just prove it to me and I'm in. And that's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. It's like, I want to believe it. I can't go over the top because I can't get my heart broken so much. But I'm like, I'm tempered. I'm like, all right, this could be cool, but I can't get too excited. I'm looking at it like this. If Deshaun Watson stays in Houston, I'll be disappointed, but it won't be that upsetting. But if he goes to Miami, it's going to kill me. It's just going to crush me.
Right. And that's really interesting because it actually, if you look at the AFC East over like a long time, like Deshaun Watson being on the Dolphins would actually fall right into line with our experience. Is that not true?
Yes. And if you want to know, I have a stat that I came up with myself.
Oh, this is an exclusive.
This is an exclusive. I came up with this stat by myself. Okay.
Oh my God.
This just shows you, because you've been a fan since when?
1982.
I remember watching Richard Todd the first time. So it was probably 81, 82.
Right.
Okay. Since 1983 till 2020, last season, there has been a minimum of one Hall of Fame quarterback and one Hall of Fame coach in our division every single year, right? But 10 other years within that 30 years, 37 years, 10 of those years, we had two Hall of Fame quarterbacks and two Hall of Fame coaches.
Interesting. Wait, so give me some names here. So you're saying that the entire from 1983, there has always been a Hall of Fame quarterback as our opponent in our division. That's what you're saying.
And there's always been one Hall of Fame coach in our division.
Oh my God. Okay, so give me some names here. This is crazy. Okay. I can't believe you actually came up with this because you're not known for this type of knowledge.
Here we go. Marv Levy, Hall of Fame coach, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Buffalo Bills.
right? He was the coach from 1986 to 1997, right? Jim Kelly, 1986 to 1996. But now Shula has been in our division since 1980. It all started in 1983. Dan Marino was in our division 1983. Right. So you had Dan Marino, Don Shula, and then in 86, we also get Jim Kelly and Marv Levy until 1997, right?
Oh, right.
So they're gone, but we still got Dan Marino and Don Shula, right? But then what happens is we get now Bill Belichick comes in with Tom Brady. Now here's the thing. Tom Brady didn't start till 2001, right? And Dan Marino retired in 1999. So you say, well, wait a minute. In year 2000, you didn't have anybody. No, because guess what? You know who was in our division in year 2000? Peyton Manning.
The Colts.
He was still in our division from 1998 to 2001. And then they went into the AFC South or North or whatever it was. And then we continue with this barrage of a beatdown to our psyche by the Belichick and Brady thing. So since we've been watching, me and you, that's what's been going on. And you say, well, what about the Jets? Who did the Jets have? You know what we had? We had Bill Parcells for 3 years as a Hall of Fame coach. And we had Brett Favre for 1 year with fettuccine as an arm.
We had him for essentially 9 games.
Yeah,
and then
11 games. We were 8-3, and then everything fell in the toilet.
Right. So we had 11 games of a Hall of Fame quarterback, 3 years of a Hall of Fame coach, and our opposition were Hall of Fame coaches and Hall of Fame quarterbacks the entire time that we've been fans.
37 years.
Dude,
and here's the consolation prize. Consolation prize. We had Pete Carroll, who's going to be a Hall of Fame coach, for 1 year before he really became Pete Carroll.
Right. So so you're saying that we had him. He's technically he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach, but we had him for that 1 year where we fired him real quick because the gold was out there. We couldn't deny the allure of Rich Kotite. So we had to fire Pete Carroll to get Rich Kotite. So Joe, I'm going to tell you something. That is a very impressive stat and really highlights how painful this has been. So it's like the idea of being able to get a guy at the level of Deshaun Watson. Sure, we can take Justin Fields, or we can take Zach Wilson, or even Trey Lance, or any of these guys, and who knows what will happen. But Deshaun Watson is only 1 year in the league longer than Sam Darnold. These guys, this is a young man. He's a young man, and we could potentially get him like for a few first-round picks or Sam Darnold and some change, whatever it might be. But the idea of actually getting him, this is so rare for us that we probably should move the heavens and the earth to try to get him in here. Is that what you're concluding here?
See, I'm not good with what draft picks. I'm not that guy. Like, that's why I love watching your show, because you're very knowledgeable. For an absolute lunatic, you're so knowledgeable, and you know about draft picks and the PDF number or the GIF number, whatever. Yeah. I have no idea. The PFD number, it's a 12. And normally it's a 5. I don't know what you're talking about, but you make sense. And it would be amazing to get a guy and it would be just like, all right, now, because there's something about this Robert Saleh guy that just seems different. And maybe because we're beaten down, that any coach who is not Adam Gase would make us feel really good. But there's something about this guy that makes you feel good. And the fact that Joe Douglas, who I believe in Joe, I think that's why this is going to work, because we finally have a GM that is able to do what the GM wants to do without having those two hawks sitting over him. You know what I mean? Yeah. The two trust fund babies, that are, exactly. Telling them what to do about football. That's the thing.
Okay. Well, Joe, listen, dude, you're awesome. I swear to God, this is very interesting stuff that you've given us today. I'm glad that you gave this exclusive to Green Bean, because you could have given this to, ESPN. ESPN would have paid royally for this type of info, and I'm glad that you gave it to me. But let me give you a plug before you go. I'm just so grateful that you're here, man. Honestly, I couldn't think of a better person. So Joe Conte actually is the host of 2 shows. Why don't you tell us about those shows? What are they and where can we find them?
Well, the first show is called the Conte and Kenny Show. We do what we call old school radio. We do radio like it was in the 90s, the 1990s. We just do fun radio, and it's comedy, and we play sound effects, and it's fun. And we've been doing it for so long. We have the record, Kyle GreenBean. I don't know if you know this. We have the record. We've been doing the longest podcast without making any money. I don't know if you know that.
That is an honor, quite frankly. I'm sure. Right.
And then my other podcast is a podcast called the Honeymooners Podcast, and it's all about the classic TV show, The Honeymooners. It's me and my friend Louis Fatz, and it's a lot of fun. It's good. We call it good, clean fun. It's all G-rated, and we have a lot of fun, and it's a good time.
So where they can just go anywhere where you would get your podcast, you can look up the Honeymooners Show or the Conte and Kenny Show, and they'll find you?
Yep, absolutely.
Joe, thank you so much for being my guest. You gave me some awesome content here, and I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye, pal. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that's Joe Conte. Now back to the podcast. That's going to lead us right into the final portion of this show, which is this. Now, a lot of people are worried that if we do, in fact, trade for Deshaun Watson, that alleviates the ability to build our team. And that it may. But I want to talk about some of the wrinkles that a lot of people aren't seeing with our very impressive young general manager. That some of the potential that he's created with his last year and a half of moves that, again, a lot of people aren't either seeing, aren't recognizing, or just are choosing not to talk about it yet. There's a lot going on with this guy. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, I'm not going to do a full mock offseason, but I want to really focus on this one little wrinkle of the offseason, comp picks. Now, if you don't know what a comp pick is, it's when the league compensates for when teams lose a lot of free agents, for whatever the reason. If you lose a lot of free agents, the league has created a system where they will provide you with compensatory picks. So like if you lost 10 free agents and you basically had a vacuum in your team, the league will recognize that by the level of player that you lost and associate to that loss an associated pick value. So if you lost one of your big free agents, let's say a free agent leaves, let's say Marcus May chooses to leave and goes and signs for $12 million a year for 4 years over with the Seattle Seahawks to reunite with Jamal Adams. The league recognizes that and says, wow, man, that really sucks. We'll give you the highest compensatory pick, which is a 3rd round pick. You can't get a 2nd or a 1st through the compensatory system, but you can get a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, or a 7th round pick from the league. So essentially free picks when you lose players. So the smart teams, like let's call them the Pats, the Steelers, the Ravens, these teams have figured out how to utilize the compensatory pick system to their favor. It's a no-brainer. But teams like us have been on the other side, the flip side, the consumer side of the free agent market, and therefore we can never receive compensatory picks because the way that the league system works in an overview style is the free agents that you lose are equaled out and nullified by the free agents that you sign. It also it goes by tiers too, so the contracts that you sign guys on versus the contracts that your guys sign for, they can equalize each other and wash out. Very similar to when there are 2 penalties on a play. It doesn't matter that your quarterback got crushed and grabbed by his head and thrown around. If there was a holding call or something like, you know what I mean, that you can't accept the penalty because they're offsetting. So that's what happens with free agents. So in our most recent history, we've only really had one GM that was any good at this, and you guys aren't going to like this, but it's true. John Idzik was actually very good at this. He let a lot of the free agents leave. He didn't sign a bunch of free agents, partially because he sucked at signing free agents, but I really do believe that part of his plan was to utilize the compensatory pick system. So a lot of people shit on John Idzik, and rightfully so. But his plan was sound. He just didn't have any ability to, on the acquisition end, he didn't have any ability to identify and evaluate talent and bring talent in here. He let Rex Ryan do it, and as we know, Rex Ryan is a less than stellar talent evaluator. Good coach, all those types of things, defensive mastermind even. But as far as choosing, identifying and choosing talent, he's no good, evidenced by the 2011 offseason. After our 2009-2010 AFC championship runs, Rex Ryan and Mike Tannenbaum were allowed to kind of tear it all down, and then Rex Ryan was basically responsible for the player side of the John Idzik relationship. So John Idzik was able to get like 5 compensatory picks, I think it was, which brought him to the famous Idzik 12. As we know, he used all 12 of those picks on scrubs. That's what he did. I mean, basically, only Anunwa was worth a damn. Calvin Pryor played okay for a year or two, but he was a stupid pick from the moment they sent in the card. You don't take a safety in the first round when it's the deepest wide receiver draft in history, and you have a vacuum at wide receiver. So anyway, it's really high time that the Jets stop being such consumers in free agency and trying to build our team there because we can't draft, and allowing your free agents to leave, signing a couple important free agents, but not trying to build your whole team through free agency. And this way, when it's time for the equation to be put forth for your team, you can lose more free agents than you sign, and therefore the league will give you anywhere from a 3rd to a 7th round pick for each player that you lost. It's brilliant, actually. The fact that we haven't utilized this shows just how inept our front offices have been over the past 15, 20 years. It's incredible. So what we have this year, we're looking at 25 free agents. Now, we have 25 free agents that either need to be re-signed or allowed to walk, okay? In addition to that, we happen to have this next 2 years, we have 4 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 3 third-round picks, 1 fourth-round pick, 4 fifth-round picks, 4 sixth-round picks, and no 7th-round picks. We've actually gotten rid of all of our 7th-round picks. We traded one in the Jordan Willis trade to make that a 6th or whatever it was in 2022. We gave away our 7th and Jordan Willis for a 6th, and then we gave up another 7th somewhere along the line. Steve McClendon maybe. So anyway, we were able to gain 4 fifths and 4 sixths over the next 2 years, in addition to 4 firsts and 3 thirds. So we have a nice little stockpile of draft picks. Now, with our 25 free agents, let me give you the list of them, and we'll go through who's going to be re-signed and let go and all that sort of stuff. So let's take a look here. The guys I'd like to re-sign, very simply, are Marcus May, Brian Poole, Neville Hewitt, Pat Elflein, Harvey Lange, and Terrell Basham. Okay, those are the guys. That's 6 of our 25 free agents, which leaves us with 19, if I have done the math correct. Okay, so the guys that we're going to let walk, so that leaves us with 19 free agents left. So these are the guys we're going to allow to walk. Brashad Perryman. We can get into it later. He's going to be allowed to walk because he should be. All right, he can't. The best ability is availability, and Perryman does not offer you that. Jordan Jenkins, it's time. It's time to go, buddy. Frank Gore, who may or may not retire. McDougald, Vincent Smith, who I'm a big fan of, but it's time to go, man. The experiment is over. It's sad. Let somebody else play with it. Joe Flacco, who may or may not retire. Peanut, Patrick Onwuasor, Derek Brown, the tight end, or Daniel Brown, I'm sorry. Randy Travis, the tight end, I think it's Ross Travis, actually. The tight end. So 2 tight ends. Josh Andrews, the center, signed as a free agent last year, not working out. I say you let him go and try someone else for your reserve center position. Bryce Hagar, a linebacker. Arthur Mollett, again, another one. Time to go. Did okay at safety, but could do better there. Trevin Coley, a defensive tackle, and Bennett Jackson, a cornerback. So out of those, These are the guys that are more than likely going to sign contracts elsewhere, so therefore would factor into our free agent comp pick equation, okay? Brashad Perriman, Jordan Jenkins, Frank Gore if he doesn't retire, Bradley McDougall, Vincent Smith, he's going to get signed somewhere. Probably a low contract, but he's going to get signed. Joe Flacco if he doesn't retire. Peanut's getting re-signed. Daniel Brown's getting re-signed. Josh Andrews is getting re-signed. Arthur Maulet's getting re-signed, as is Bennett Jackson. Now that leaves us with Ross Travis, the tight end, I have no idea. Bryce Hagar, I don't know. These guys' careers might be over. Trevin Coley, I don't really know. And all obviously, so that's 11 guys, and obviously we can go down to 9 if Flacco and Gore choose to retire. They wouldn't be able to factor in. So that would leave us, let's look at the low end. That would leave us with 9 potential comp picks if we didn't sign any free agents. Now, most of them are going to be mid-tier, lower tier, so we're looking at like 6th, 5th at best. You might be able to see Jordan Jenkins get a big contract somewhere. Maybe he could be a 4th, 5th kind of a thing. So that's what we're looking at with this first year. Peanut might get a decent contract, $2 million, so he would be like a 6th or 7th. But so these guys, we're looking at anywhere from really, let's just say safely, 5th to 7th round picks. Now, when you start to get these picks for free, what these picks essentially are tools to be able to move around and do things in the draft to get higher quality players. Really good teams can wait and sit there at their 5th and 6th round picks and get gems. Like for a really good gem last year in the 7th was Donovan Peoples-Jones. A lot of us, like myself, loved that guy. I thought he should have been a 3rd to 4th round pick. Honestly, I loved him. I know his production in college was down, but long story short, he slipped all the way to the 7th. The Cleveland Browns got him, and he has proven he should have been taken. Now, he's not lighting up the league or anything yet, but he's going to. And he showed his talent and his worth. So good teams can recognize that in the 5th to 7th round and use those in those types of situations as well. And you can also get special teams guys, kickers, gunners, all that kind of stuff, punters, and you can do that. So what Joe Douglas has done is he's already acquired a lot of 5th and 6th round picks. Like I said, over the next 2 years, we have 4 5ths and 4 6ths. That's 8 picks in the back end of the draft that he has to play with. He could just take players and all that. But so if he uses these picks with the plan I'm going to tell you about, and is able to remain on the plus side of the comp pick equation, he can be restocking this section of his draft every single year. You can do this. The Patriots do it every single year, except they get thirds because they let their huge free agents go. Every year the Patriots lose their top free agents, and they get 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks for them every single year. The Patriots have 10 to 13 picks in the draft every year because they know how to do it. Okay, and that's why even though Bill Belichick isn't the greatest picker in the draft, he has so many that just by the law of averages, quantity, he nails some, and he gets some damn good players in. So now, here's the thing. In free agency, let's talk about the big ones, okay? We have Joe Thuney, okay, from the Pats, obviously enough, and watch, when Joe Thuney leaves the Pats, he's going to get probably the top guard contract in the league. And Bill Belichick, who knows how to stay ahead of the comp pick equation, we're going to sign Joe Thuney, most likely, but even if he goes somewhere else, let's say we sign him for fun. So we sign Joe Thuney to $15 million a year, and the Patriots are getting a 3rd round pick for us doing that. Isn't that nice? Isn't that good? Look what Bill Belichick has done. So he loses the guy to the Jets, but the Jets basically earn him a 3rd round pick for doing so. So it's okay to lose players when you're playing it like this because you're getting comped. Do you understand? So here's what we have this year. This year is very interesting because, as we know, the salary cap, instead of going up 10 to 15 million, it's going down 40 million, okay, to 175. About $35 million, I think it is. So we're going down to probably $175 million. So that puts teams in panic mode. Teams like the Saints, for example. Let's take a look here. The Saints are $108 million over the cap. Okay. Conversely, the Jets have about $70 million in cap space. Teams like the Eagles, $61 million over. The Rams, $35 million over. The Steelers, $28 million over. And it goes on and on. The Chiefs, $18 million over. The Giants are $13 million over the cap. Okay, the Cowboys have $9 million in cap space, so that would have been low a few years ago. The fact that they're in the plus side is a big deal this year. The Bills are $2 million over the cap, so all these teams are going to be forced to make some very difficult decisions this year. So they're going to have to cut or renegotiate guys. Now, guys are going to be very rigid toward renegotiation. So they're going to hit a lot of obstacles there. So some guys might, but most are not going to do it. And they're going to have to be cut, flat out cut. Some guys will renegotiate, but a lot of guys, there's so many free agents this year. So when we're looking at the big free agents, I stopped at Joe Thuney, but we can add guys like Allen Robinson to the mix as well. So you have wide receiver and guard taken care of in free agency. These are two very big free agents. And then you got like Judon in Baltimore as a pass rusher and all that sort of stuff. So when you look at that, these are the free agents you want to bring in. But if you look at this the other way, which is teams are going to be needing to cut guys. So if you sign free agents when you lose guys like Jordan Jenkins and Brashad Perryman, you're basically wiping that clean of being able to get a comp pick for these guys. But if you go to other teams like the Saints and you say, hey, you're going to have to cut Michael Thomas. He's refusing to renegotiate his contract. He's saying, screw you. You signed the contract, honor it. So you're going to be forced to cut this guy. Now, I can just wait until you cut them and go and sign them that way, because once guys are cut, then you don't have to worry, they don't factor into the salary cap. To the comp pick equation any longer. They don't. So as you know, guys who are cut don't factor in. It's only free agents that factor into the comp pick equation. So when you're looking at, I can just wait till you cut Michael Thomas. He's refused to renegotiate. You can't pay him. He's $20 million. I will give you a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick. You can get something for him, and I'll take on the contract, the $20 million. So instead of signing Allen Robinson for $20 million, you give the Saints a 5th-round pick. They get something for it, and you take on the same contract. It's rumored that Allen Robinson is going to get about $20 million. I think a lot of these numbers are going to be lower because the salary cap thing. Nobody's going to be able to pay him. So a lot of these guys are going to be like, I want $20 million, and you're going to see him 2 months into free agency, like, I don't know, like Clowney last year. Remember how he stayed around forever? Wanting $20 million, then I was like, oh, I'll take $10 million. Remember that? So a lot of that stuff's going to happen. But when you call the Saints, who are $108 million over the cap, they have Marshawn Lattimore, they have Michael Thomas. Lattimore's contract is $15.3 million. So do you want to sign a free agent corner, or do you want to give the Saints a 6th-round pick or a 5th-round pick? We have 8 of them. Give it to them. I would give one of our 3/3 for Michael Thomas. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you give the Saints a 3rd-round pick for Michael Thomas instead of signing Allen Robinson, washing the Brashad Perryman loss? So essentially, if you give the Saints a 3rd for Michael Thomas, you get one of the top 3 receivers in the league. You give him the $20 million instead of Allen Robinson, and then next year when Brashad Perryman, you get a 5th-round pick. So essentially, you traded a 4th for him. You see what I'm saying? And that's not flawless math. Don't ever listen, man. Once Green Bean starts talking about numbers, put on your salt hat, your salt cap. Okay, take it with a grain of salt, man. I'm going to give you overview. I'm not getting into the specifics. That's Ryan from Jets Talk, Matt O'Leary. Those guys will give you numbers. I'm talking about grand concepts. Okay? So here's the thing. When Joe Douglas started sending away Jordan Willis, Steve McClendon, Avery Williamson for 5ths and 6ths and 7ths and all those kinds of picks, there's a larger vision in play here. The potential that this offers us to start to stay ahead of the comp pick equation. Free picks. The free draft pick equation is such a tool that the Jets never utilize. We did once. Every now and then we'd get a sixth or a seventh or something like that. But the one time we actually utilized it was John Idzik. He built the Idzik 12, and then he used every single pick on a complete turd. Okay? That's the problem. So if we start to utilize this again, you don't build your team through free agency. Yes, you can sign Joe Thuney. But maybe there's a guard out there. Let's take a look. Are there any guards? Yeah, you have Kevin Zeitler. Now, he's not Joe Thuney, okay? But you wouldn't rather give the Giants a seventh or you wouldn't have any sevenths, but a fifth-round pick for Kevin Zeitler at guard? So if you give the Giants, let's say a sixth-round pick, you give them a sixth-round pick for Kevin Zeitler. They now don't have to cut him because they're more than likely going to. You give them a sixth-round pick for Kevin Zeitler. You save $3 million because he's getting about $12 million on the cap, where you're probably going to have to pay Joe Thuney about $15. You just saved $3 million, and you didn't waste a comp pick. Okay? Then that pick can be when you lose a guy like Josh Andrews and he signs a $1 million contract somewhere. He's now going to get you a sixth or seventh, probably a seventh-round pick. You can now get that seventh-round pick. So instead of paying Joe Thuney $3 million more, you get a very, very good guard and a seventh-round pick and a sixth-round pick. You see what I'm saying? You get the pick back. And you just keep doing this. You just keep doing this. It really makes a ton of sense. Now, let me give you some of the players that are potentially cap casualties this year. And then we're going to get into one last one I want to give you, and as we come around full circle to the Deshaun Watson thing. So with the Saints, you got Michael Thomas and Marshawn Lattimore. We got $20 million and $15.3 million respectively. Okay, we can take on these contracts because we're going to have, once we cut Henry Anderson, Alex Lewis, Josh Doxson, and some other guys, maybe even Van Roten, we're going to have just about $15 million more dollars. So that puts us up into the $80 million range. Okay, give or take. So we have the money to assume some of these contracts. We have the picks to justify giving someone, letting them get some value out of guys that they're going to have to cut anyway. They can't pay them all. Half the league is over the cap. Let me tell you, before I get into the free agents, exactly how many teams are over the cap. 12. 12 teams are over the cap. 3 more are $5 million or less over the cap. So they can't even sign their rookies. And then you got the Carolina Panthers at $6 million over. You have the Cardinals and the Cowboys at $9 million. Dude, they're not even able to sign their rookies. They're going to have to cut people. Do you understand? So rather than just cutting them, they can get a fifth or a sixth from the Jets, maybe even a third or a fourth in some instances because we have 3/3 to play with. We have a fourth. We can start getting into our 2023 picks too. Why not? Give them some stuff. Give them some picks. They get something for when they have to cut someone. So here are the guys. So like I said, 12 teams are over. 3 teams are $5 million and less. 3 more are under $10 million. So what's that? I don't know. 12, 16, I don't know, 15, 17, 18 picks. Half the league, man, is in cap trouble. Okay? Half the league is in cap trouble. So not only are there teams that have to cut people, but there are also teams that can't be your competition. All right? And then you only have a few teams. Let's see. You only got 4 of us above $50 million. One of them is the Pats. How'd they do that? Right? So the Patriots, the Indianapolis Colts are at 61. The Jets are currently at 62. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are up top at $70 million over. So that's your competition, man, really. That's your competition. 4 teams. So these are some of the free agents. Like I said, Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, the Falcons. You got defensive tackle Grady Jarrett. Don't forget, our defensive coordinator was just over there with the Falcons. Nothing wrong with bringing over a very good defensive tackle instead of maybe Kyle Phillips. He's only making $5.5 million a year, but they're going to have to cut him. Okay? So what about the Ravens cornerback Marcus Peters? He's making just under $10 million. What about the Bills? What about free safety Jordan Poyer? Jordan Poyer on the Bills. He's one of the best free safeties in the league. He's only making $5.5 million. He's making under $6 million. And guess what I read? His wife hates Buffalo. His wife hates the Buffalo area. Imagine that, hating living up there. What a crazy thing. Who wouldn't love Buffalo? So he's another one. His wife hates Buffalo. He's making $6 million a year, a little under $6 million. And they're going to have to cut someone. They're only $2 million over the cap. Keeping their dynamic safety duo. Again, we know about positional value. So why not just say, hey, we'll give you a 6th-round pick. We'll give you a 6th-round pick. We'll take on Jordan Poyer, team him with Marcus May for $6 million. Well, we can't do that. How about the Browns? They got David Njoku, tight end. He's making $6 million. Sucks. But a change of scenery might be all that guy needs. He's got the talent. We know that. The Cowboys, offensive tackle Tyron Smith. He was linked to the Jets all offseason last year. Remember, he's making about $5.5 million, $5.25. The Broncos, Von Miller. He's making $18 million. Nobody wants to do that. So you let them cut him and you sign him for $50. Right? You got A.J. Bowie with the Broncos. He's making $13.3. They can't keep him, guys. Unless he decided to renegotiate for $8 million, they can't keep him. We can assume that contract and have a starting cornerback. Right? How about the Packers? This one's interesting. They got Preston Smith for $8 million, but also their kicker, Mason Crosby, is one of the top paid kickers in the league. We have kicker issues. Why take a chance with Cameron Dicker in the draft when you can just trade them a 6th-round pick and take on Mason Crosby, who was 16 for 16 in the regular season and 2 for 2 in the postseason outside of the championship game, which I don't have those numbers yet. He's perfect in 2020. And they're most likely going to have to cut him. Or they're at least going to consider cutting him. Say, hey, I'll give you a 6th-round pick, 2023 7th. I'll give you something for the guy. And then you can just use that and draft a kicker. I want Max Crosby. I'll pay him $2.5 million a year. What's the difference? The Colts had Kenny Moore for $5 million. The Chiefs, safety Tyrann Mathieu is making $14.8 million. Offensive tackle Eric Fisher is making $11.5. Now, we don't need Eric Fisher. We got Fant, and we're going to draft probably a tackle in the mid-rounds. If you listen to a lot of people, we're going to bring in a gargantuan 6'9", 400-pound monster this year in the 5th or 6th round, right? Maybe 4th. The Chargers, Mike Williams, dude. He was a first-round pick a couple years ago. He's making $15.6 million. They can't keep him, guys. Most likely. They can't keep him. Send him a 5th. It's a little bit of a disappointment, but, You got Tyler Higbee over at the Rams. He's good. Tight end Kyle Rudolph, one of my faves. The Vikings are $16 million over the cap as it stands now. $16 million over the cap. Kyle Rudolph's toast in Minnesota, most likely. They're $16 million over the cap. They got rookies coming in. That's $8 to $10 million, right? So that's $26 million over. How they getting there? They have to find it. They're going to be cutting everybody. Nate Solder for the Giants. Like I said, Kevin Zeitler. He's making $12 million. Give him a 6th. Give him a 5th. Take him. Rather than sign Joe Thuney. I love Joe Thuney. I'm happy to do it. But when you start looking at it through the comp pick equation, there's a different way to look at things. And smart GMs know this. Joe Douglas, in my opinion, has been planning this for the last 18 months. Now, we couldn't have foreseen COVID. It just made it that much more drastic. But these teams were going to be over the cap anyway. The Saints were over the cap by $60 million before COVID. You understand? See what I'm saying? I know you understand. I'm sorry to say it like that. The Eagles, Derek Barnett, $10 million. The Steelers cornerback Joe Hayden. He's having a great year. Okay? 49ers, D Ford. Why not bring D Ford over here? D Ford and Sherman. Let them help install the defense. Well, not the defense, but the culture. Help them install the Saleh culture, right? So anyway, that's what I think is actually going to happen, and I'll close it out with this one last thing. When we're talking about the Deshaun Watson trade, let me see where the Miami Dolphins are in this equation as well. They're not doing too bad. They have $23 million in cap space, right? So they're actually one of the better. They're one of the better teams as far as their cap situation goes. But we can offer the Texans a little something else that the Miami Dolphins probably cannot. Why don't we take on J.J. Watt's $17 million? He's aging. He's injured often. He needs a change of scenery. He's done in Houston. He's toast. We'll take him on. We'll give you a 5th-round pick. You can get something for him because you know damn well you have to cut him this year. He's $17 million. I can just wait and get him for cheaper, or I can give you a 5th. You give me J.J. Watt, and that ups the value of my trade to you for Deshaun Watson. So not only is my number 2 pick worth a 2nd-round pick in value more than what Miami Dolphins are offering, I'm also offering you a 2023 first, and I'm also offering you a 5th for J.J. Watt so you can get him off your books and actually get something for him. What's that worth to you? It's worth a 5th. I know. But it's worth a 5th where you're not getting anything. We're already packaged. We already have the Deshaun Watson package. But we're going to do this for you as well. So do you see, guys? So that's what I think is going to go on. I think that Joe Douglas is a brilliant man. I think that while I'm probably pulling some stuff out of my butt here, I'm aware of that. I know how this stuff goes. Generally speaking, I tend to look at things through a little bit of a different lens than a lot of others. Not everybody. I'm not the smartest guy in the room or anything, but I do tend to look at things objectively with the full scope. The full scope. Why do we want so many 5th and 6th round picks? What is it? This is why. Why wouldn't Joe Douglas, who fancies himself a draft expert, a player evaluation strength of his, right? That's one of his strengths. Why wouldn't he want to flip this and start getting free picks from the NFL to increase the likelihood that he's going to find gems in the later rounds? Why wouldn't he do that? Any decent GM is going to do exactly that. The problem is we haven't had one. So now that we do, expect more of this. That will be it for episode 6 of Green Bean's Jets Pod. I'm really happy that you were here. I want to say one last thing. I want to thank you guys for your incredible support. I did reach my first milestone this week, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's only the beginning. This is going to enable me to do a lot of cool things. I have the Teespring store starting, all kinds of designs being approved and disapproved and all this kind of stuff. We're cooking. But I want to thank you guys, man. I really want to thank you guys. The support has been unbelievable. I love your comments. I stay up for hours talking to you guys. I try really hard to respond to every single one of you, actually listen to what you're saying and try to respond, with a legitimate response, not just like, oh, that's nice, something like that. I try really hard to talk with you guys. Again, please please subscribe. Green Bean Jets Fan on YouTube, Jetnation on YouTube. Twitter is Being the Jets Fan. The Instagram is Green Bean the Jets Fan. And you can also follow my national coaster tour, which is what I'm doing out here. I'm taking my family on every single roller coaster in the country. And you can find me on Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube. Full-Time Coaster Tour, 2 words, on YouTube. And 1 ride at a time on Instagram. Thank you, guys. I hope you're having a delightful day. With that, have a great day. I love you. And I'll see you next time.